Hi, my name is Brett Fox, D5. I'm a licensed primary care practitioner, and I urge you to support the resolution without amendments in the name of those who have been massacred, including healthcare workers in Gaza, and for those who can't speak for fear of being targeted by the apartheid regime of Israel. I remind you, Israel's war crimes against the Palestinian people have been denounced by a majority of the UN and human rights organizations, and they will be brought to The Hague to face the ICJ for said crimes this week. Israel is also engaging in brinkmanship, escalating the scale of their operations to a regional level, which risks a much greater war involving major world powers and more of our direct funding. Our tax-paying citizens and voters are saying no to funding Israel's war crimes. Our administration's unwavering support for Israel and the crimes they commit with impunity will drag us into another war abroad with no positive outcomes. We must support this resolution as it is written. Every day it is delayed is a leap towards war with devastating consequences for our country, our allies, and countless innocent civilians. Listen to the majority of all your constituents, regardless of district lines, and vote in support of this resolution. Thank you.
My name is Yonatan Greenberg. I'm a Jewish Israeli born in Jerusalem and a resident of District 7. I'm here to testify in favor of the ceasefire resolution with no amendments. I vote and I will remember whether my supervisor Melgar stood idly by while our taxpayer dollars funded genocide or whether she heeded the international call for a ceasefire. History will smile upon those of you who take the bold call for ceasefire. And to those still considering voting against the resolution, if for whatever backwards reason you care only about the lives of Jewish Israelis, know that this genocidal war endangers them as well. The Israeli government's barbaric assault of the last 3 months is throwing kerosene on the powder keg of the Middle East. If Netanyahu is not restrained, the whole region will go up in flames. Please be bold, take action before we are all buried beneath the rubble. This kind of stuff cannot be contained. It feeds the cycle of violence, and don't be so sure that we will stay safe. Ceasefire now, no amendments.
My name is Javeria Azim, and I'm a Bay Area resident biotech worker. I am calling for this amendment to pass as it is written with no amendments. Everyone is very quick to dismiss and condemn the acts of Hamas, the same group where 85% of them are orphans and direct products of the occupation. Since October 7th, there are 25,000 children that have been orphaned. I would also like to clear up the false deception of Hamas's charter calling for the expulsion of Jewish individuals. The 2017 document of their general principle and policies clearly states Hamas does not wage a struggle against the Jews because they are Jewish, but wages a struggle against the Zionists that occupy Palestine. Where there is occupation, there will be resistance. Every atrocious act that the opposition highlights on October 7th is a fraction of what the Palestinian suffrage has been in the past 75 years. Just a couple weeks ago, on December 26th, 80 Palestinian bodies were returned with no organs. It has been 93 days. Over 52,000 Palestinians are injured.
Hello, my name is MB and I work in District 11 in San Francisco. I'm here to support this critical common sense ceasefire resolution as it is written with no amendments. San Francisco proudly celebrated International Human Rights Day this past December, displaying signs and flags around the city. I believe this city wants to stand on the right side of history and wants to send a message that San Francisco stands against genocide. None of us here today want to sit around and allow Palestinians to be further dehumanized, nor can we continue to allow the apartheid state of Israel to continue to murder and martyr thousands more Palestinians than they already have. The genocide in Gaza is only possible with our tax dollars, so that means we, the people you all represent, have the power to end genocide in Gaza. Please stand with the people of your city for the children of Gaza and all of the Palestinian people in Gaza, as well as all Palestinians outside of Palestine who are suffering and witnessing their families and friends being unjustly killed. Please listen to your constituents and pass this resolution for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza now. Thank you.
Well, you can stop playing Candy Crush on your phone because you only have about half hour left. My name is Laura Cohen. I've lived in San Francisco for 13 years, and I currently live in the Tenderloin. And 20-some years ago, I had a bat mitzvah. So I am more or less qualified to tell you that it is not anti-Semitic to call for a ceasefire, but it is anti-Semitic to use Jewish faith, culture, and the history of persecution to bomb hospitals and murder children by the thousands. So I personally absolve you from any anti-Semitic accusations like that mustachioed idiot earlier, that calling for a ceasefire with no amendments may garner you. Truly, it's the bare minimum you can do. If you're worried about what President Biden or what terrorists might think of this declaration of a ceasefire, well, I can assure you they don't give a shit. No Israeli soldiers are going to stop murdering babies because of San Francisco's Board of Supervisors adding amendments about Hamas. But you will be seen as cowards. Pass it or be seen as genocide apologists. I yield my time.
My name is Allison. I am an anti-Zionist Jew and a hospital medical interpreter. The limits to providing high-quality health care in Gaza are being set by Israel and by the United States. You have a role to play in forcing Israel to end its siege of Gaza by doing your part, doing the right thing, voting yes on the ceasefire resolution as is with no amendments. Let us begin the process of repentance and teshuvah, returning by owning up to the fact that we are abetting a genocide in Gaza. Never again means now. If I can leave you with one thing, it is that anti-Zionism is not the same thing as anti-Semitism. Permanent ceasefire now. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Alex. I'm a queer anti-Zionist Jew and a voter in District 1. There's been over 9,000 children killed, and hundreds of thousands of people are starving right now. And some of y'all are treating this like a debate and playing coy about making public statements. The US and Israel are jointly committing genocide against Palestinians. I think in your heart of hearts, y'all know that, even if you just started tuning in recently. There's a long road to healing coming out of 75 years of occupation. The first step must be an immediate and permanent ceasefire. Passing this resolution right now matters. It needs no racist, goofy amendments. 9,000 children are dead. Enough.
Hello, my name is Dina, and I'm an archaeologist PhD from 9th District. I'm here because it's the minimum to do for Gaza, the minimum to do for my Palestinian San Franciscan daughter, who once, when she was in 3rd grade, the teacher asked her what she's doing for the break, summer break. She said, I'm going to Palestine. And the teacher asked her, where is that? And she said, I'm going to visit my family in Jerusalem. And the teacher made her stand up and say 3 times, I'm going to Israel. And that's why I'm here. And after 16 years living in San Francisco, I'm here to say that I'm not only seeing San Francisco voting for the ceasefire, but I'm also visualizing San Francisco taking President Biden to the court for the war crime he's committing. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Simone Manganelli. I'm a voter in District 8. Please vote for the ceasefire resolution as is with no racist amendments. I'm tired. Week after week, we have been protesting for Palestine. Week after week, we have been calling for a ceasefire on social media, in the streets, with our friends and family. Week after week, we have been emailing you and our other elected leaders. Are you listening? I'm so tired of this. I come to public comment because it is important to speak out against the genocide. I have come to speak out in the past against a ballooning police budget, which should be redirected to better things, a symptom of our terrible foreign and domestic policy. I come to speak out for more public services like public health and public transit, but it seems futile. Do you even listen? But if I am tired, imagine how tired Palestinians are of being bombed endlessly and relentlessly for months on end and for enduring an occupation for almost a century, of having entire families erased from the earth. So I'm here once again in support of Palestinians, asking you to support the ceasefire resolution with no amendments. If you do not, we will vote you out in November. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Zoe Kelman. I'm in D1. I'm pleading that you pass the ceasefire resolution without racist amendments. I'm actually embarrassed to be here again. It just seems so obvious what we need. And, you know, a lot of us would like to think that we're morally good. However, you know, during, I have to go back to history. It's like in Germany, we'd like to think that we would have been the one that would have protected our Jewish neighbors or fought against the Nazis. Well, right now, playing out live is we are responsible for what's this genocide happening in Gaza, to the point where we're even worse than Israel right now, because we're the ones providing all the weapons that they're using and all the funding. It's like this secret war that we're fighting with other people's lives. I was standing in line, been in line for about over 4 hours, and I was thirsty, and it hit me as like, oh my God, these children don't have access.
Yes, speaker time has elapsed.
I'm embarrassed. All right. I have to just say that the Board of Supervisors, I'm embarrassed for you. Okay?
Supervisors, my name is Charlie Shamas. I'm here to support the resolution as is without any divisive amendments. I'm a proud resident of District 11, where I live with my family and 3 kids, but my roots are in North Africa and West Asia. My father was born and raised in Cairo, Egypt. My father, alongside my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, were rounded up, forcibly detained, and exiled, deported from Egypt, because in addition to being Arab, they were also Jewish. My father's exile eventually brought him to San Francisco, but despite having been stripped of his homeland, he always believed that solidarity, justice, and peace must reign over war, apartheid, and genocide. If he were alive today, he would never sanction the bullets and bombs that are being waged in Gaza. We're all horrified at seeing entire generations losing their lives and dignity. The bombs in Gaza will never lead to a peace. A ceasefire must be the first step. And I'm here on behalf of my father and my entire family to urge you to support this resolution as is without any further amendments. Thank you.
My name is Jay Arietta Peixoto. I am an artist raised and presently residing in District 7 in favor of the resolution without any amendments. I'm a first-generation San Francisco native. My mother and our family moved here from the Philippines to this city, not for me to live on the very soil that condones the harm of the land of my ancestry and all occupied lands under U.S. imperialism. San Francisco, known for being a city for its people, a city with a vast history of political movements and human rights activism that paved the way for Beacon for people who believe in a beautiful world again. This city I am so proud to call my hometown, this city that raised me. What will open your hearts and eyes when this is a city known for taking action for social and racial justice? I am ashamed of you all for your complicity in allowing 93 days of genocide, 93 days of family bloodlines being erased, the daily dozens of videos and images I've seen of children bleeding and missing limbs. Why are you standing on the wrong side of history when we, the voters, have the power over you? We demand a permanent ceasefire now. We demand an end to the occupation.
Good afternoon. My name is Andy Gillis. I live in District 8, and I urge the committee to adopt this resolution as written with no amendments. I'll say again what I said a month ago. I wish I didn't have to be here again. To quote a sign at a recent protest in support of Gaza, "Who the F word votes against a ceasefire? Shame on you if you don't support a ceasefire resolution. And why has it taken you so long? You know very well this isn't a resolution in support of Hamas, that from the start it specifically called for an end to anti-Semitism as well as Islamophobia. If you're afraid of being seen as backing extremists, then stop siding with the ultra-right-wing Netanyahu government and its well-documented war crimes and genocide. Please provide the world and your constituents with what we're waiting for, the progressive, humane... Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Fern Ebeling. I vote in District 7. I'm a second-generation San Franciscan. San Francisco is in my DNA. I'm a retired nurse. I worked at San Francisco General Hospital for 34 and a half years. I know what San Francisco can do to protect the vulnerable. Who is more vulnerable right now than Gazans? As healthcare workers, we know what genocide looks like. It is reprehensible that San Francisco hasn't condemned this genocide publicly. To speak your language of politics, your jobs are at risk. Just look at how Biden's low ratings have plummeted even further since October 7th. All of us here vote. We are not asking you to change foreign policy. We are asking you to represent us and our collective duty to oppose racism, hate, and violence in all its forms. Adopt this resolution as
Hi, my name's Celia. I'm a voting resident and co-owner of a small business in the Outer Sunset District 4. I gave a public comment in support of Dean Preston's ceasefire resolution on December 5th, asking that it be voted on urgently and in its original form. I'm here again to emphasize that this basic ceasefire resolution be voted on in its original form and not with any of Dorsey's racist and divisive amendments. I again want to highlight that through this moment, American voters are awakening to the reality that the rest of the world knows very well, that the root causes of this genocide, among others currently ongoing, are driven by Western imperialism and the U.S. war machine. On December 5th, when I was here last, there were over 20,000 people killed in Gaza by the Israeli genocide campaign. Now, a month later, there are over 30,000 people killed, over 12,000 children. If you don't act, you are complicit. These petals represent the martyred blood. Ceasefire now, free Palestine, end the occupation.
Hi, my name is Fatma and I'm a middle school student. Waking up and going to school, being able to learn a curriculum, seeing my friends may as well be a dream compared to Palestine, which has officially ended the school year due to the fact that the children in Palestine have been murdered, and it's no longer safe to go to a school that may as well be bombed at any moment. It's a dream knowing that my baby sister is safe and can play with stuffed toys instead of being worried every moment that she could be murdered on a hospital bed. It's a dream knowing that I use pens to draw and make doodles of anime characters rather than writing my name, family, and address down on my own body. 23,000 Palestinians have been killed in the past 3 months, 7,000 being children, kids like me. I also want you to remember that these are not just numbers, a casualty, a consequence of someone's actions. These are lives. They were lives of people, kids with toys and friends, or adults with children, families, spouses, jobs, people with dreams and futures, just like everyone else in this room. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Emria Ahmed. I am a registered voter and I work in San Francisco. I'm calling on you to pass a resolution in its original form. Demanding a ceasefire now is not controversial or complicated, as you've heard. As an immigration attorney, I have heard from dozens of Palestinian families who are scared for their lives and the lives of their family members in Gaza, knowing any day could be their last because of what our own president has called indiscriminate bombing of Gaza. This resolution recognizes the humanity of Palestinians. We must also acknowledge that our tax dollars make this genocide possible and that silence is not an option. This resolution is your voice, reflecting all of our voices, all of the voices you've heard commenting here and chanting in the streets. Recognizing Palestinian humanity is also a critical step in ending anti-Arab and Muslim hate and rising violence in San Francisco. We need you to pass this resolution to speak out and stand on the right side of human rights and the right side of history. Thank you.
Just like to thank this Board of Supervisors for allowing us to speak on this issue. I was also here in early December, and I am not enthused that we have to be here yet again to explain this issue, but there's plenty of people to explain it, so you have no excuse to feign ignorance or apathy in this situation anymore. I urge you to pass this resolution without any disingenuous bad faith amendments. This is just like a microcosm of what happened in the UN when the US voted against a ceasefire. And for what? To add amendments to condemn Hamas. Hamas is responsible for this violence and the Israeli government because they have basically gone down this path of war without any conception of the good of the people. And as government officials, you should also see this as the only way that we're going to get peace in the future, because it's just going to lead to regional war. And I don't know, we'll sell a lot of arms and dumb bombs so we could continue destroying, but no one benefits from that, and we don't support it. So I urge you to vote your conscience.
My name is Yasmin. I'm a healthcare worker in the Bay and a Palestinian. I'm here to demand the permanent ceasefire resolution is put forward to a vote with no racist Zionist amendments. We are currently witnessing a genocide that has been ongoing for the past 75 years. What is happening is not complicated. The white supremacist settler state of Israel is murdering Palestinians. Dorsey, shame on you on your phone right now. You're succumbing to pressures from racist lobbying groups. The resolution as is the bare minimum that Gaza needs. Biden is not an adequate moral compass. Biden's approval ratings have plummeted since October 7th and is trailing Trump in presidential polls. Biden's policy is genocidal and will lead to him losing the election. We as your constituents and donors will remember how you vote today and tomorrow. A permanent ceasefire resolution is needed immediately if you believe that all human life is precious. You have the opportunity to stand on the right side of history.
My name is Sammy. I'm a Palestinian voter in District 9 with Muslim, Christian, and Jewish grandparents. The ceasefire resolution is not complicated and not controversial and should be passed without amendments. In the face of genocide, calling for an unconditional ceasefire is the minimum you should do to affirm the value and dignity of all human life. You have an opportunity and a choice to represent your values and the diverse voices from all across San Francisco by supporting the resolution as is. Rejecting the resolution or gutting it via amendments that leave it meaningless is controversial. The small pro-genocide fringe group that is opposed to the resolution is welcome to their disturbing views, but they can't condescend to me about what makes my people safe. It's 2024. Their racist and paternalistic rhetoric has no place in a peace-loving society. And unfortunately, the proposed amendments reflect these dehumanizing narratives. Gutting the resolution is essentially a vote for genocide. I do not believe these are your values.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Carolyn Goosen, and I'm here as a District 8 resident, a mother, a member of the LGBT community, and a city worker to urge you all to please vote in favor of the ceasefire resolution as originally drafted. I'm also proud to be here representing our elected public defender, Mino Raju, who asked me to also share his support for the resolution as originally drafted. Per Public Defender Raju, quote, "As a public defender, I stand against state violence and oppression and systems that violate civil and human rights. And I urge our U.S. leaders, including our San Francisco leaders, to join the international community in seeking immediate and long-term solutions, ending military aggression, calling for a ceasefire, and allowing for the return of people to their homes. My heart goes out to people suffering due to the loss of Palestinian and Israeli lives. Othering, especially by leaders, is at the root of violence and oppression, and we must stand against it." End quote. Thank you, Supervisors Preston and Ronan, for introducing this, and please, Supervisors, vote yes on the original resolution so that we as a city can demand.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Sydney Simpson. I'm here as a registered nurse, a parent, and an advocate for peace. The ripple effects of war extend far beyond the casualties. And I want to remind you that some of the refugees of this war will become our neighbors here in San Francisco. Will you be proud of your work here today when they are your constituents? I want to encourage you all to be brave in this moment. As a nurse with deep unconditional commitment to the health and prosperity of all people, I beg that you recommend the resolution as is and prioritize humanity over politics. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm Musa from CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, and we urge you to vote yes on the ceasefire resolution with no amendments. When the resolution was introduced on December 5th, the death toll was at 20,000. Since then, the number of Palestinians killed by Israel in Gaza has soared over 30,000, including 10,000 plus children. Will it take 10,000 more for you to take a moral stand? The Israeli war on Gaza is a textbook case of genocide, and South Africa has filed genocide proceedings against Israel at the UN's International Court of Justice. There are dozens of pages demonstrating genocidal intent by Israel in the ICJ filing. It's estimated that 25% of Gaza's population could die within the next year as a result of Israel's blockade and bombardment. Israel is starving Gaza. Recent polling shows that 68% of all Americans and over 80% of Democrats support an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. This is not a divisive call. This is a call for basic humanity and dignity. A Holocaust is happening before our eyes, yet the world remains silent. Palestinians are not numbers. They are human beings with hopes and dreams. Please vote yes on the resolution with no amendments. Thank you.
My name is Marilyn Emerzian. My grandparents came here as refugees, Armenians, fleeing Turkey sometime around 1915. So there is history of genocide in my family background. Since when, in the history of humanity, has genocide ever been justified? There is no equation. You supervisors, you know the right thing to do. Thank you.
Supervisors, my name is Charles Lewis. I am a born San Franciscan, which means I can walk to the very hospital where I was born. I am a black man, which means my blackness was tried to be weaponized by the JCRC earlier today. And I am a journalist, which means I dig up facts and can refute everything that they try to put out, such as the fact that when this infamous New York Times article came out, it was real journalists who were able to refute all of it that very afternoon, and also reported how when hostages were released from Hamas, they did not criticize Hamas, they criticized Benjamin Netanyahu, and it was hostages released who were shot by the IDF. Now, we have heard from two different kinds of South Africans. There's one who uses apartheid money to buy Twitter and spew real anti-Semitism on a daily basis, whereas the majority of South Africans are against the genocide happening because they have seen what that looks like firsthand. They know what apartheid is and they are against it, which is why all of us are against it. And you have to hold up that San Francisco legacy.
Good afternoon, motherfuckers. My name is Jordan. My pronouns are she, her, or they, them. You haven't run my clock yet. And I'm a D5 voter. As a disability rights activist, I say ceasefire right fucking now. No racist amendments. There are many Palestinians who are physically disabled and mentally traumatized by Israel's atrocities. And even if I was a Jew in Israel, I'd be in jail for being too disabled to serve in the rape apologist IDF and unable to get health care because I'm unable to fucking work. You work for the people. You don't work for the Zion Nazi baby-killing bitch-ass motherfuckers at the JCRC who cry wolf about anti-Semitism when we say free Gaza. In fact, the only difference between fucking Nazi Germany and Israel is that Israel uses white phosphorus to burn people to death instead of ovens. We millennials and Gen Z hate collective punishment bullshit, and I can't wait for all you boomers for Bibi to fucking get meteored like the dinosaurs. Up yours, pink washer Dorsey. Lick my cunt and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you!
Good afternoon.
I've presented in these chambers dozens of times over a nearly 20-year career in this building. Until today, I've never been booed, had people put their hands behind my head to signal their distaste for what I am saying. I've never been shouted at or interrupted at this microphone, as you've seen repeatedly today. This behavior is designed to intimidate people. I am not scared. I am a proud Jew who wouldn't be alive today without the existence of the state of Israel. I believe in Israel's right to defend itself. I've mourned every day since October 7th for the young people raped and murdered while dancing, for people savagely murdered in their kibbutzim, and for the hundreds taken hostage and tortured. I don't claim to know how to achieve peace in the Middle East. I hope peace will come, but I won't allow anyone here to pretend that calls for the eradication of Israel are calls for peace. Am Yisrael Chai.
My name is Francisco da Costa. I say, from the river to the sea, free Palestine. And I say to you that right there, where we have the War Memorial Theater, in November of 1945, the United Nations Charter was signed. And I say to you, hundreds of resolutions, far superior, far more powerful, have been passed by the United Nations to tell Israel and the Israeli Defense Forces to stop harming the Palestinians, which they have done for 75 years. So this Mickey Mouse stuff that y'all are doing here goes nowhere. If you really have your heart in the right place, then you can take anybody to a better place. You have failed. Thank you very much.
I know it sucks for you guys to sit here this long listening to people who are angry with you for good reason when Gaza can't wait and we've been here a month or more. I know you might feel like this is a losing issue either way. This is a losing issue. Even with all their big toys, they can't do anything but kill innocent people, and it looks terrible and we feel it. We're watching it on our phones. We are all losing and yet to lose so much in the era of wealth hoarding, inequality, and climate change. We've already lost so much in this era in the culture of San Francisco. No one has lost more than the people in Gaza, and here we are. We are the people of San Francisco. You know how unusual it is for this many people to be here. You know we care enough that we will never forget. I am yet another queer Jewish person who has experienced sexual assault, begging you to not use these experiences against us and treat us like pawns to justify the way our tax money is being used to kill 30,000 people in Gaza. Nothing could justify the true terror and the U.S. and Israel are colluding, and please pass this without the offensive amendments. This just creates further bad faith for people with our government, local and national governments failing. You have the power to show the people you are listening. Otherwise, we will vote you out in eternal disgrace. Shame on the amendment and anyone voting no. Ceasefire now, end the occupation.
My name is Alana. I am a 24-year voter and resident in District 8. I own a business and pay city and county taxes. I am Jewish, and you have put a target on my back by bringing this to the table in the first place. Last night, I was called a right-wing murderer for doing nothing but being Jewish. I do not feel safe here. Also, as a Jew, I care for all people, but first and foremost, I care for my fellow San Franciscans. I am for the end of this war, but not for this resolution. Let me explain why. I'm ashamed at all of you for wasting my tax dollars. All of you. When you should be focusing on cleaning up our city, funding our police, dealing with homeless and drug crisis, please stop wasting my taxes and throw this out. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Renda, and I'm a Palestinian American who's from an Orthodox Christian family. I'm a native San Franciscan, born and raised here, and I'm a constituent in District 4. I support the ceasefire resolution without any amendments. This is a genocide. This is not a war and needs to be treated as such. We are in a state of emergency. My father's family became refugees in 1948 and have been for decades. My family is a part of the fabric of San Francisco community. My grandfather on my mom's side served in the U.S. military, the First World War. Since 1940, we have owned a wide range of businesses, from corner stores to cafes to properties, all in San Francisco. Palestinians in this city are doctors, engineers, lawyers, city workers, and educators. We are your neighbors. Myself, I've been in business and a business owner in this city for over 30 years, as well as my brother and my cousins and a lot of my friends. We are your constituents, we are your voters, and it is your duty to represent our concerns, to be on the right side of history.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Saba Nafis, and I'm a scientist working in biotech living in District 10, the Bayview. Very proud to be a Bayview resident. I want to talk about Israel's unjust imprisonment of Palestinians. I'm quoting an NPR article from the end of November. As of November 1st, Israeli authorities held nearly 7,000 Palestinians from the occupied territories in detention for alleged security offenses, according to the Israeli human rights organization Hamoked. Among those being held are dozens of women and scores of children waiting without trial, and many on the assumptions of being future security issues. Regarding Hamas, in 2009, Avner Cohen, a former Israeli official, told the Wall Street Journal, "Hamas, to my great regret, is Israel's creation." I want to remind everyone here that what the Palestinians are facing right now is a continuation of a 100-year war on Palestine, led by the Zionists' outdated dreams of colonization of a land and ethnic cleansing of a people. Please let this resolution pass without delay and without Supervisor Dorsey's racist and factually incorrect amendments. And I want to say I'm really proud proud of Dean Preston.
Hello, my name is Nasim Nabari. I'm a resident of District 6. I am here to urge you to pass the ceasefire resolution as it is. My mother is Jewish and my father is Muslim, which makes me both Jewish and Muslim. And for me, there's no conflict. I'm not pulled between different allegiances because this situation is very simple. It is a very simple question of standing for human rights. Anyone, regardless of their affinities, their belongings, should be able to have the humanity to recognize that genocide and ethnic cleansing are wrong. I ask each of you to move beyond personal affinities, biases, prejudice, political considerations, to find your humanity and integrity, and to stand for human rights. Oppose the genocide. Ceasefire now.
Hello, my name is Nora. I'm a first-generation queer Tejana, and I'm a proud resident of the Mission District, District 9. Thank you, Supervisor Preston and Ronan, for co-sponsoring this resolution. I'm a part of Healthcare Workers for Palestine Bay Area. I'm also a clinical librarian for the SF General Hospital Library. Gaza's hospital system is completely destroyed, and I think about this every day when I walk into the hospital. What if this happened here in San Francisco? All of us would have nowhere to go. When you pause for your moments of silence, visualize this. Supervisor Walton and the board, you've witnessed firsthand the effects of longtime residents being pushed out of their homes, to losing childhood friends to violence and incarceration. Palestinians have faced the same since 1948. As a librarian, it's my duty to educate you all, and I recommend all of you, when you go home tonight, to watch the documentary 1948. It's freely available online. It's just the tip of the iceberg in understanding this brutal history. Educate yourselves and have the courage and the conscience to pass this resolution.
Hello, Supervisors. My name is Wheeler Freeman, and I'm a constituent of District 8 and a 30-year resident of San Francisco and the Bay Area. I speak as a Black, biracial, and Indigenous American in full support of this resolution with no war or political semantics amendments. I've heard voices speak of unprovoked attacks by Hamas. However, we all know the history prior to October 7th. This did not start with Hamas, and with the discovery of and knowledge of new facts and contributions to the deaths on October 7th, we must reject these amendments and focus on what is at hand. And this is the end of the genocide against Palestinians and a permanent ceasefire. Human lives should never be up for debate. Humanity should never be up for debate. But here we are again, and I was here December 5th. Vote yes with no amendments. Thank you.
Hi, Supervisors. Matt, Shimon, Dean Preston. Great to see you all. Matt, last time I saw you, you came to a memorial and you tried to use the death of one of our fellows and twist it into a political ploy. Shame on you. You need to make this right. I want to read a few quotes. The children are always ours, every single one of them, all over the globe, and I'm beginning to suspect that whoever is incapable of recognizing this may be incapable of morality. That's James Baldwin. He also says, I'm terrified at the moral apathy. Angela Davis, who graduates from my alma mater, Brandeis University, says, Palestine is a moral litmus test for the world. This is a moral litmus test for San Francisco. We are voting 6 supervisors in or out this upcoming election. We got many propositions, the mayor, DA, we're watching. And this is one of the things that is going to define, where your morality stands, where your values stand. And thank you so much.
Hi, thank you supervisors for listening to us. My name is Stacy and I'm a 30-year resident of District 5 and a small business owner, here to urge you to support Dean Preston's initiative fully without any amendments. We have to use the political power that we have here. I have walked precincts in D5 for 30 years since Matt Gonzalez was running for that seat, and I know, as you all do, that the voters in this city way beyond the 68% nationally support a permanent ceasefire resolution. The only people benefiting from this war have names, and they're Raytheon, General Dynamics, Leonardo, Lockheed Martin, and they are not the constituents of this district. We urge you to support unconditionally, once again, this ceasefire resolution, and thank you to Dean Preston and everyone who is letting democracy actually happen here. You are the elected officials that we have access to. I call Joe Biden every day since this war started, and yet it is still going on, and he did not get permission from Congress. I believe in democracy and
Hi, my name is Kaizen. I live in District 6 on Folsom Street. I'm asking to urge you to support the ceasefire resolution. When history is taught, when we're lucky, I think we learn about these atrocities that happened in the past, and I'm sure each of you on the Rules Committee have had this experience of looking back at terrible things that happened in the past that we have some distance from and thinking, how could the people in charge have done this and let this happen in other places? And I think I'd just urge you to think about how, when history is written about this, whether you want to be someone who was supporting acts of evil or whether you want to be taking a stand, standing up bravely and opposing what is a genocide happening in front of us.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Brilliant, and I am not a resident of SF. I'm a former resident. I come here from the Dublin-Pleasanton area, and I'm here to ask you to vote yes for a ceasefire resolution with no amendments. Since I've been here last December, I think 10,000 plus people have died. I'm just here to amplify the voices of the Palestinian people, the journalists, and then those among us here right now. This issue is absolutely an issue that connects women's rights. It's about race, it's about colorism. It's a humanitarian issue. Healthcare workers are dying, kids are dying. And this city has the opportunity, just like Oakland, to set a precedent for the rest of the Bay Area. So I hope this will urge the world to have a ceasefire now. Thank you.
Hi there. Hi, Supervisor Dorsey, Supervisor Walton, Safai, who I know stepped out, and Supervisor Preston. My name is Steph. I'm a resident of D1, and I'm here to urge you to vote for the ceasefire resolution without any amendments. We are witnessing a genocide, and it's our responsibility to be a part of ending it. All major human rights organizations, the UN, and vast majority of countries across the globe have done so. It would be really a shame if this board stood by as the genocide was happening and didn't speak out because it was too complicated. Thank you for hearing me. Ceasefire now.
My name is Martha Hubert. I'm a resident of District 8. I was really pleased to be at the vigil we had the other night in Noe Valley at the town square. I was ashamed that Raphael Mandelman wasn't there, but it was a lovely sight seeing hundreds of my neighbors that I didn't even know cared that were caring. And I just can't understand why this is even a question. People are dying. What do we have to do to end this? The ceasefire is the only thing. So please vote for the ceasefire. And thank you, Dean Preston.
My name is Sonia. I'm a Bay Area resident. Thank you all so much for your attention this morning and this afternoon. Sometimes as an Arab American, it feels like I am not always accepted in America. And when I went to the first protest to call for a ceasefire, I really looked around at my colleagues and my peers in America, and I saw everybody out there, every religion, every race, every background, every socioeconomic class, every single person was out. Please stand with America and on American values. Please stand up for democracy and truth. This was an overwhelming majority to pass this resolution, as is, with no amendments. Do your job as elected officials, public servants, to be vessels of the American voices. We have stood here today overwhelmingly asking you to pass this, to please bring us relief. And tomorrow we will celebrate your victory, celebrate you, and celebrate your success.
Hi, my name is Gilbert, and all I can say is stop the occupation, stop the genocide, ceasefire now, free Palestine. Do the right thing. It's justice, and that's what we want, and that's what everyone wants. Look into your hearts, do the right thing. Free Palestine, ceasefire now.
Hi, my name is Murong Yao, and I'm a resident of North Beach in San Francisco and a social worker for transitional aged youth experiencing homelessness in the Tenderloin and in San Francisco in general. I'm here to urge the Board of Supervisors to vote yes on the ceasefire resolution tomorrow without any amendments that will water down what is already a bare minimum resolution. California sends hundreds of millions of dollars to Israel every year for the Israeli state to commit genocide, ethnic cleansing, and apartheid against the Palestinian people, while the youth I work with here in San Francisco are struggling to get basic needs like food, housing, and medical care. Again, ceasefire is the bare minimum, and you must vote yes to this resolution tomorrow without amendments and as it is. Thank you.
Good afternoon, supervisors. Thanks so much for hearing us out. My name is Mohammed. I'm a Palestinian. I'm also an advocate that has worked in the city on criminal justice reform issues. Our presence today speaks for itself. You have heard from the overwhelming majority on the support for a ceasefire against genocide from your constituents. If you'd like to vote with your constituents, we suggest and urge and demand that you vote to adopt a ceasefire resolution without amendments. When there's a genocide happening, your reaction should not be, we need to amend the calls to end that genocide. your response should be, we need to end a genocide immediately when there are now 10,000 children murdered. You have heard today, outside of this meeting, you've received 30,000 letters of support for the resolution as is. So I thank you for listening to us, and I thank Supervisor Preston for bringing this. Thank you.
I'm Steve Zeltzer. I produce Workweek on KPOO and Pacifica's Capitalism, Race, and Democracy. My union, the Pacific Media Workers Guild, is supporting a ceasefire, but a ceasefire is not enough. Ceasefire is not enough. We have to stop U.S. military and economic aid to Israel. We have to stop the war on the people of this world. Trillions of dollars are going to war. Who is that benefiting? It's benefiting the war profiteers. When people in San Francisco are dying on the street, can't get health care, and this is going on, this is a crime against humanity. And it's not just in Palestine, it's right here in San Francisco. When you look at the streets, that is where it's at. We can't even take care of health care in this country, and they have national health care in Israel. What the hell is going on? What is going on in this country? We have to change our priorities, and we really need a working class party that will stand up for the working people here and the working people in Palestine. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public who would like to make public comment on this item? I do not see any additional speakers.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Public comment on this item is now closed. And colleagues, I'm going to move the amendments I read into the record earlier. I do want to do this in consideration of some of our colleagues who gave important feedback over the holidays to bring more balance to a resolution that some of us believe is insufficiently balanced currently. I do want to remind everyone the amendments that have been moved are additive. They're not watering down. They're adding content and context to provide more balance. As amended, this resolution would still support a sustained ceasefire in Gaza.
No, we're not.
Reasonable minds can disagree, and I want to reiterate my appreciation to Supervisor Preston and Supervisor Ronan for an underlying resolution that is less divisive than many others. A resolution, however, can't be rendered unifying or moderate or non-controversial simply because its supporters say it is. Likewise, amendments intended to bring more balance to what I and others view as an unacceptably imbalanced resolution aren't divisive just because opponents say that. The truth is, nothing about this conflict or this resolution was ever going to be unifying. There is enormous pain on both sides. And I know that many of my colleagues have been, it has been emotional for many of us to hear from people. But it's important, I think, that I hope this is true of colleagues, but I would ask that it's true of all San Franciscans, that the disagreements we express over things that we feel deeply don't make those with whom we disagree bad people. But I want to state one thing clearly. I'm not alone in believing that our silence on facts about a terrorist attack which so shocked the conscience would be unacceptable for a Board of Supervisors resolution, and it would be unworthy of the city of St. Francis. I also want to address representations that were made here today, that the New York Times has retracted its reporting of December 28th, and it's a 2-month investigation, a story that was called Screams Without Words, How Hamas Weaponized Sexual Violence on October 7th. I have heard that it was retracted here. I have heard that it was retracted in private conversations. I checked the New York Times to look for corrections or retractions. I found no evidence that that was true. I also did my due diligence personally and reached out to a New York Times editor to ask about the story's status. The New York Times stands by its reporting. The eyes of history are on us here too. And I know that this is something that wherever we agree, whatever we may disagree, I think there was some agreement on that. But I'm not comfortable if denialism about gender-based violence that will forever burnish October 7th into the history books is viewed as being on the right side of history. That's the wrong side of history. I think it's important to adopt these amendments. I will support a sustained ceasefire resolution, but not if silence or denialism about October 7th atrocities are part of it. And I'd ask for your support for amendments that bring more balance and further context to this resolution, which at least for some of us at the Board of Supervisors agree and support. Vice Chair Walton.
Thank you, Chair Dorsey. And first, I want to just start off by saying that I am truly sorry for anyone who has suffered loss in the region, who's lost loved ones. My prayers are with you and your families, and I am really hoping for peace one day. I also want to thank everyone who came and spoke this morning and into the afternoon, because I know that this is something that everyone is passionate about, and this space that was provided today for hearing from everyone, I think, is very important. I also do want to say that on November 17th, I supported a ceasefire via petition to President Biden even before this resolution was introduced. I want to just read a little bit, one paragraph from that resolution calling for President Biden, Vice President Harris, and members of Congress to call for a ceasefire. And this was signed by other local and state elected officials here in California, and also members of several communities. But it says, "Dear President Biden, Vice President Harris, and members of Congress, we write to you in this time of escalating violence, tension, and division to urge you to use all the authority and power of your office to facilitate a long-term ceasefire and end the ongoing violence in Israel, Palestine, by conditioning the future U.S. funding on a genuine path to peace. We watched with horror the violence unleashed by Hamas, horrific killings of 1,200 men, women, and children on October 7th. The impact that this attack had on a Jewish people already on edge from increased anti-Semitism and a long history of trauma cannot be overstated. We watched with equal horror as Israel responded by cutting off food, water, and fuel to the entire population of Gaza, and continue to watch as over, at the time, 12,000 men, women, and children have been killed under an indiscriminate and overwhelming bombing campaign. The humanitarian crisis that is the impact of this response, compounded by the increased Islamophobia and long history of trauma, cannot be overstated. And we watch in horror the rise in anti-Semitism and Islamophobia in the United States as our communities become increasingly divided. I just wanted to put that in the record because I definitely believe in a ceasefire. I also do want to condemn all forms of hate, whether it be anti-Palestinian, anti-Semitic, Islamophobic. And, you know, as a black man, I'm 100% know what it's like to be discriminated against, what it's like to be hated, what it is like to have to deal with the effects of racism. And I 100% also agree with Supervisor Safai when he states that if anyone walks away feeling like they lost or won, then we may be falling short at our attempt to garner peace through our resolution. But I also know that we 100% have to do something. And I really, really just want to state that as we move forward, the 100% focus should be about condemning hate, should be about bringing people together, should be about asking to return hostages, should be about asking for humanitarian aid, and most certainly to make sure that all violence is stopped. And I would just end with this. As we move forward, either way, all amendments should be weighed in by the full board of supervisors and not just by this committee.
Supervisor Preston.
Thank you, Chair Dorsey, Vice Chair Walton, and Supervisor Safai. So, and thank you again for calendaring this and for the time hearing from everyone. I really want to thank everyone who came out to speak today and join my colleagues in extending our condolences to everyone who has lost family, friends, and loved ones. I think that, as I believe Supervisor Safai noted earlier, this is an unprecedented, I think, amount of public comment, turnout, and emails, people coming in. We're here, five or 5.5 hours later, wrapping up public comment. And I think that speaks to how strongly people feel about us moving forward with the ceasefire resolution. I want to say that our resolution does, I think, exactly what Supervisor Walton laid out, which was to call for ceasefire, humanitarian aid, release of all hostages, and condemn hate. I mean, that is that's what the original resolution does. And I want to talk a little bit about the content and amendments here. So the language of this resolution, and this was not easy to do, right? But we endeavored to do this in conjunction with and talking with all stakeholders before introducing it. It was designed to underscore our shared humanity and bring people together in defense of human life. In contrast to the amendments that Chair Dorsey is proposing, our resolution intentionally did not call for one side or the other to surrender or to have this board purport to decide instead of the Israeli or Palestinian people what long-term solutions and political structures are appropriate in the region. We did not include that. It was beyond the scope of this resolution. We were seeking the ground that we could hopefully all agree on, as many of the public commenters have spoken to, which is a ceasefire, humanitarian aid, the release of all hostages. Our resolution has been pending over a month. The only request for amendments that we received before Friday, a few days ago, was Supervisor Melgar, who originally asked that we withdraw reference to a particular federal bill, which we honored it and took that out prior to introducing the resolution, and Supervisor Engardio, who requested language more strongly condemning Hamas's attack, which, as I'll explain, we incorporated into amendments, balanced amendments that we have proposed. And Supervisor Engardio also suggested a call for regime change on all sides. And we did not include that because it was clear to me that that was beyond the scope of this resolution and would actually lead to loss of support for this resolution because of differing views on that issue. Since Friday, we've received a series of what I can only describe as one-sided amendments and shifting goalposts. I want to address the claim that our original resolution was one-sided, because that was a talking point, very unfortunately, and I would say cynically, spread by some. I had so many people who originally said, "Why are you doing a one-sided resolution?" And then we said, "Have you read it?" They said, "No." And we sent them the resolution. And they read it, and they said, "Oh, we're pleasantly surprised. We actually thought you had written a resolution that fill in the blank." You know, and a lot of the things that we've heard from opponents that are not in the resolution. So I want to be very clear on that. I also want to be clear on what we're talking about when we say one-sided. If someone believes our resolution is one-sided, I am still waiting for them to point to what is one-sided about it. And with all due respect, and again, we've had good conversations with Supervisor Dorsey, with Chair Dorsey, I cannot think of a more one-sided amendment than in a ceasefire resolution to call for the surrender of one side. That is, one can believe in the surrender of one side. People can have that view, people can articulate that view, but that is by definition a one-sided amendment and an amendment that will not bring people together. So it is an advocacy amendment for one particular side, but it is not an attempt to find common ground or to make a resolution more balanced. So we believe that the amendments that I've circulated to the committee are consistent with the good faith feedback that we've received from a lot of critics of the resolution as well as a lot of supporters, and all the engagement, while keeping this as a balanced, not one-sided resolution, and addressing concerns raised and focusing on the things that Supervisor Walton identified as the purposes, what should be the purposes of the resolution. And we've invited suggestions the whole way through from our colleagues and the public. And it is concerning to have this flurry of amendments emerge since Friday. So I am going to, with apologies for the time it will take, but it has been requested, and thank you, Supervisor Safai. I think the suggestion that we outline them, I outlined them in terms of describing them in opening comments, but I will go ahead, since you're poised to decide what amendments, if any, to adopt here today. I'm going to go through them quickly as I can here. In terms of what the specific amendments would be, I want to emphasize we are comfortable with the resolution as drafted and moving it forward in that way. The amendments that I am about to read are amendments that address and incorporate some of the criticisms and some of the suggestions while not betraying the fundamentals of the resolution, and from our conversation with so many advocates and supporters of the resolution, would maintain their support while addressing some of the concerns raised. So I will read through them now. At page 1, line 7, where it says all human life is precious and the targeting of, add the word or indiscriminate killing of, and then that's followed by civilians. At line 10 and 11, changing wounded thousands more in the region to wounded tens of thousands more in the region. At lines 12 to 13, changing the 1.7 million Palestinians displaced since October 7, updating that number to 1.9 million Palestinians displaced. At lines 16 to 17, amending the number of remaining Israeli hostages in Gaza from 137 to 129. Again, these are for accuracy and our updates. And again, a reminder that the resolution specifically calls for the release of all hostages in addition to ceasefire and humanitarian aid. In line on page 1, still 22, starting in 22, adding the following language after reference to the UN General Assembly resolution, quote, and on December 12, 2023, adopted, that's the UN, adopted with a large majority a resolution demanding an, quote, immediate humanitarian ceasefire, the, quote, immediate unconditional release of all hostages and humanitarian aid, adding a whereas paragraph on page 2, line 3, that states whereas various international human rights and humanitarian organizations have similarly called for an immediate permanent ceasefire, release of all hostages, and humanitarian aid. Adding at page 2, line 22, a new whereas clause that says, whereas on December 9, 2023, the United States vetoed a resolution in the United Nations Security Council which called for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire and has since continued to refuse support for any resolutions calling for a ceasefire. On page 3, adding 3 resolved clauses starting at page 3, line 21. Further resolved that the San Francisco Board of Supervisors condemns Hamas's attack on Israeli civilians, resulting in the deaths of at least 1,200 Israeli people on October 7th, 2023. Further resolved that the San Francisco Board of Supervisors condemns the Netanyahu regime's attacks, resulting in the deaths of tens of thousands of Palestinian civilians in Gaza. And further resolved that the San Francisco Board of Supervisors urges the international community to work with Palestinian and Israeli people to find a just and lasting peace and to conduct a full investigation of the conduct of all parties in this conflict and hold all parties and individuals who have overseen or engaged in war crimes and international human rights violations accountable. Those are the amendments we have proposed and requested that the committee adopt. If the committee decides to either adopt those or to not, either way, let me be clear that our office has remained open to good faith conversations about balanced amendments that add and explain in objective ways the impact on people's lives. We have been open to that, but we are not receptive to valuing some lives over others. We are not receptive to talking in detail about the death of some people, but not in detail about the death of other people. That is not a balanced resolution, and it is also a recipe for dividing people. It is the opposite of the purposes of this resolution. So thank you for the time to lay out those amendments, as I said, that have previously been distributed to the committee. I would urge the committee either to adopt those and move this forward with recommendation, or to leave the resolution as is. Again, these amendments were an attempt, a good faith attempt by our office, by many advocates for this ceasefire resolution, to find some common ground and lay these things out in ways that would hopefully be more inclusive. If they're not received in that way, then we understand and are perfectly happy to remain with the original language of the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Preston. Supervisor Safai.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Preston, for going through your proposed amendments. And Chair Dorsey, I'm still going through yours. I just got these, just for the record, I just got these amendments from Supervisor Dorsey at 9:30 this morning. That's when they were sent to the committee members. And as he said earlier, part of the rules of Brown Act, when you're on a committee, do not allow you to have communication with your fellow committee members. Although I believe you can send information in advance if it's your proposed. You just can't get back and forth through the chair to the city attorney. Is that correct?
Deputy City Attorney Ann Pearson, that is correct. It's not a Brown Act violation to provide a final copy of amendments that will be introduced so long as there's no discussion of them.
Okay, thank you. And again, this has been a difficult transition to have this conversation, and I know it's been difficult for a lot of the families and a lot of the folks that want to see our body take action. We do have planned recesses, and we've been on break, but I know Every single one of us has taken calls, has met with people, has listened, has tried to be as accessible as we can over the break. But this was the first available opportunity to have this conversation today. Just flipping through what I see Supervisor Dorsey has put forward, and not getting into the specificity of some of the things that are talked about, there seems to still be a lot of common ground of what has been proposed. I am a believer in constant communication. I'm a believer in trying to get to resolution and consensus. And I agree with what Supervisor Walton said today. I think this is something that, listen, I believe, and just for the record, I believe there will be an amended final version. And I think there needs to be more work done to that. I don't think that's going to happen today. And I agree with what Supervisor Walton said. This is something that should have the full weight and investment from the entire Board of Supervisors. So it would be my wish that we send this to the full board and have the final round of amendments there at the full board. That would be my wish. And again, I do think between now and tomorrow, we can continue to have conversations, and hopefully we can get a little closer to an agreement. I will say, just for everyone that's listening, I think the conversation has shifted away from should there be a resolution and a request for a ceasefire, and what that final ceasefire resolution should take. And I think that's a big step. And again, I know that there's a lot of people that want us to do more, want us to move quicker, but I think that's a big step, and I think we're close. That's my personal belief, and I hope that we can do that within the next 24 hours.
Great. Thank you, Supervisor Safai. I don't know how close we are, but I will be hopeful. And I do want to address, it is something where I wanted to, I know with the colleagues with whom I was working, I think it was no one's intention to be working in bad faith. I think this was something that over the holidays, in addition to this being a holiday season, many of us were watching day to day what was playing out in the region, wondering, I think, hoping when this was introduced that we might be in a better place when we finally took this up. The other thing, obviously, was also one of having a major news organization like the New York Times do the factual story that it did, that for many of us on the board felt was relevant and important. I think. Okay. So there is a motion on the floor. I made a commitment to people I have worked with this that I would ask the Rules Committee to consider these amendments. And I'm going to ask for a roll call on that motion.
There is a we do not need a second at the committee level with only 3 members.
Just a quick question for City Attorney. I believe Supervisor Safai moved that we send this to the full board. Do we need to address Chair Dorsey's amendment motion first? And did he ever make a real motion before Supervisor Safai? City Attorney.
Deputy City Attorney Ann Pearson, I would have to consult with the clerk, who I think takes better notes of when a motion is made. And I'd like to do that before answering. Generally, motions are taken in the order that they're made.
Correct.
I believe Supervisor Dorsey stated his intention to make this motion, and I would want to confirm with the clerk to see what he thinks as to the order in which they were made.
I think it's worth it.
Yes, I believe that Chair Dorsey did make a motion before the discussion started.
Thank you.
We'd like to take a vote on the motion.
Please.
Yes, on the motion to accept Chair Dorsey's amendments. Vice Chair Walton.
No.
Walton, no. Supervisor Safai? Safai, no. Chair Dorsey?
Aye.
Dorsey, aye. The motion fails with Chair Dorsey voting aye and Vice Chair Walton and Supervisor Safai voting no.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I was trying to say, I believe that this conversation should be taken up at the full board. I do believe there are going to be amendments. I think we're very close. I think in the spirit of good faith, it would have been better to just send this, and that's the motion that I'm making, to the full board without a recommendation, so we can continue the conversation over the next 24 hours as a committee report. And I think it already is listed as a committee report.
Yes, so your motion is to refer the matter without recommendation as a committee report.
Yes.
Yes. On that motion, Vice Chair Walton?
Aye.
Walton, aye. Supervisor Safai? Safai, aye. Chair Dorsey? Dorsey, no. The motion passes with Chair Dorsey voting no on the matter.
Clerk? This goes to the full board without recommendation on a 2-0 vote?
Yes, the matter will be referred to the full board
as a committee report
without recommendation as a committee report. And I just would like to note to the public that public comment was accepted and closed today, and the Board of Supervisors will not be accepting additional public comment on this item at their January 9th meeting, which is tomorrow.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any further business? Yep. Do we have any further business? We are adjourned.
That completes the agenda for today.
We are adjourned. Thanks.